Hey everyone, I'm Mark and I make minis in HeroForge. This week's mini is Lady Lay, who is a Dhampir dancing bard. I decided to make like a dancing bard because in real life I enjoy like dancing, and I thought like dancing bards are like probably like the closest thing that maybe could like express myself in like the D&D world. I was looking at like races that could be interesting to like match with a dancing bard, and Dhampir kind of like stood out to me because Dhampirs, they have like this ability, they can walk across the wall. And I thought that could be like a pretty cool idea to have like a miniature who is dancing on a wall. Another thing why I also just kind of chose a Dhampir is dancing bars, they are able to make like unarmed strike, but as a Dhampir, you can like change those unarmed strike into like bites, and that can give you like different benefits. Hence, this is why Lady Lay was born. And as you can see, Lady Lay here is dancing on a wall. Yeah, and to like indicate this wall, we have like these two lanterns. We have one lantern here and a second lantern here. Originally, I was thinking like maybe like adding like a wall on the mini itself, but then I thought there would be like an issue with the viewing angle of the miniature, because you know I didn't want to make it look like, you know, if you look at the back of the miniature, you're not going to see the mini. So instead, I decided to make a sort of a thing where I made the ground look with like some lanterns and some banners, make it look like she's dancing on a wall. And another interesting thing about this miniature, in order to like try to sell this effect, there are like two things. Like first, I kind of had to like indicate gravity. So we do have like some indication of gravity with this jewelry right here. You know, it's not attached to the skin, it's not resting on the skin, it's like going down. And another thing was the skirt, you know, so I could have like made the skirt that it's like being affected by the gravity, but also I didn't think it would look quite as good. So this is like a sort of like a compromise. I just imagine that Lady Lay is in like a dynamic position, and you know, she's like walking down this wall and her dress is moving with her, and this dress is about to sway back. Also, we have also like this tuft of hair, you know, it's doing like a motion forward. You know, I just kind of imagine that. I just imagine that she's going like this, you know, she's doing her pose. It's like very dynamic. Pretty fun thing with the bard, with the dancing bard, is that you also get like proficiency with like musical instruments. So to me, this was also just like pretty fun thing to explore, like what kind of musical instruments could Lady Lay be interested in. And I was thinking specifically about flamenco dancers, because flamenco dancers use castanets. So I borrowed something from like the Spanish culture, you know, and apparently like the original castanets, they were like shells, you know, so I thought it was just kind of like appropriate to also just make those castanets like from shells. She's doing the. And another thing that I culturally borrowed is this piercing right here. So this I kind of borrowed from the Indian culture. I'm a fan of the Bajirao Mastani film because of like all the singing and dancing there. I might alienate the Indian women audience who is interested in HeroForge with this comment, but I'm all the way like a Mastani fan, so Mastani is the goat of the story. And during like one of her dance performances, she had like this knot, which was going from her nose to her ear, you know? So this was just kind of like inspiration, and I wanted for Lady Lay also create like a sort of a knot. And for the story about Lady Lay, I just kind of imagine that she is in like an abusive relationship with a vampire master, and the vampire master like treats her as a trophy. And you know, if she like ever misbehaves or like tries to do anything, she's not the one who gets punished, because you know, the master, he just wants to keep her pretty, you know. She is his toy. I would imagine that the vampire master probably is punishing other servants and torturing other servants in front of her so that she behaves. So she does have like these two markings here from the vampire bite. These two markings, I believe, are two cigars. They're not actually decals. So if you run out of decals, you can try doing something similar. These are like smaller cigars, you know, they're very subtle and they can look pretty great as potential bite markings. Also, I did like some custom eyes for Lady Lay, and these custom eyes, I kind of imagine that during her performance, she is casting like a hypnosis spell, you know, so I did add like little whirls inside of her eyes. You know, it's very subtle. It's gonna be more noticeable if I like hover with this pane, so you can see better what I'm talking about. It's pretty cool. I really love these eyes. You can, if you want to like create your own custom eyes, the best way to do it is you just paint the eyes with like a sort of a, with any regular color. You don't use the eye color, and then you use projected decals to add like a custom whatever you wish. Not everything is going to work perfectly, but yeah, if you want, you can have like pride eyes, you know. You can do that. She's like a dancing bard, right? So I wanted her to be a little bit dangerous as well. So, you know, this is the side that we see as she's dancing, but behind her, I kind of imagine that her weapon of choice for spellcasting is a ritual dagger. And I kind of imagine her to be a person in D&D who would go into the melee and she would like parry people with her dagger with grace. Another like proud thing that I enjoy about Lady Lay is the outfit that I made for her. This outfit is partially made out of like decals. So this is a decal, for example. You can see that there's a decal here as well. And this is a decal as well. This is what normally Lady Lay looks like, but I am actually using in C here a projected decal, which I believe is like a circle, and this circle is able to create like this sort of a pattern, which makes it like blend in nicely with a dress, and it looks very elegant. See? It looks like this. Specifically for this pattern, I am using circle with outline, yeah, to create like this sort of a dress. And this is also why I couldn't use like a decal for the neck, you know, and I had to use like the cigars because like this decal was covering the neck area. I feel like it looks like much better actually than the decal that we have there. The dress is somewhat custom, so we have some seams. So this is a seam made out of tongue, you know, this is a seam made out of tongue, this is a seam made out of tongue, and this is also a seam made out of tongue. These are here to make like the transition between the dress itself and the top like a little bit nicer, a little bit more appropriate. You know, it's just like following the corset. And this is also this is kit bashed in as well. And this is just like another sort of a gravity indicator of what Lady Lay is doing. Yeah. Then the skirt itself, I had to like adjust. So I was like adjusting it as I usually do, with like these points each. And you can see I was just really trying to make sure that nothing is poking out, so everything should be fine here, you know, and it should look pretty damn natural, and I think it looks really freaking beautiful. If I reset the skirt, it looks much worse. I can show you. Let's try resetting the skirt. Yeah, this is what the skirt looks like when I reset it, right? So what I had to do, I had to click on the model and then just pull up each of these points so that they are able to go up to the corset. So this was like the final result, which looks absolutely fantastic. Now about the footwear, this is like, I just felt like this sort of a footwear would be appropriate for a dancer. You know, when I dance, I just usually dance in my socks or without socks. So, you know, like in my room, I mean, I don't really perform. And also just to indicate like the relationship with the master, I kind of imagine that like on occasion, like the master has her chained up, you know, especially if she misbehaves and she has to watch the torture of another person. And also, I just felt like it would be pretty fun since, like, the dance parts they do like unarmed strikes. Maybe it could be pretty cool just to imagine that maybe she is using this chain as like an offensive weapon, so that the kick has like an extra punch, and that would be pretty fun. This is kit bashed in as well. This is what it looks like. Otherwise, you know, so this helps a lot. Yeah. And of course, since she's a Dhampir, you know, I had to like give her like a pale complexion and stuff. So yeah, that's Lady Lay. And now let's take a look at some previous versions of Lady Lay and what she looked like. So this was the first form for Lady Lay. She kind of looks here a little bit like the chick from the Fifth Element, you know. Then I started experimenting with the lanterns here. You can see that for the lanterns, at first I was like using these pirate hooks that you normally put on a model. But instead I just put them into a wall. So if you're thinking about like hanging the lanterns on something, you can like also hang them on a hook, and that's also like a possibility. Then I started posing Lady Lay. We got the skin tone down, and I believe we more or less got the position down as well. The arm here looked a little bit weird, but later on we just cover it up. So this is what Lady Lay initially looked like. I figure like this sort of a haircut would be more appropriate because it looks more ballerina-like. And then I adjusted the face, you know, so that it looks a little bit more pleasant. And this piece of hair, if you want to like create like something similar, this is actually just like another hair piece, but it's just like made smaller. So that's how you can like create like this sort of a hairstyle that looks pretty good. And this is where I was also testing out the knot. I was just trying to make sure that it's possible to do. If I can give you guys a tip, if you are trying to create like a chain sort of a thingy, you have to like go out of here, and this may be a little bit counterintuitive. When I put like a chain here, you have like an option for kit bashing to either put like a chain or a thin chain. Now, you would probably think that I was using like a thin chain for this, but there is like one issue with thin chain. So when we like grab thin chain, and when I try to make it smaller, this is the maximum amount how much smaller I can make it. And if I go to the next node and try to make it smaller, I can't. I cannot make it smaller. So ironically, if you want to make like small tiny chains for like jewelry and stuff, you're much better off actually using the regular chain. So if I use a regular chain here, which is much bigger in size, what I am able to do, I am able to make it smaller, like significantly smaller. Then I can go to the next node and I can make it significantly smaller, and then I can go to the next node and I can make it even more smaller. So now you have like a pretty small chain. I need to make this a little bit bigger actually. And now when you want to like put this chain somewhere on a character model, I'm just gonna put it down, put it here, put it here, and put it here, put it here, put it here, put it here, put it here. So now I can, for example, take this. I'm gonna take this node, which is small, and I'm gonna pull it away from this main chain. And what it actually does, the chain is now linked out of this main chain. So what I am now supposed to do is, because I want to hide this sort of thing, what I can do is I can hide this part inside of the body. So for example, I can take this, I can turn it around, like so, and this part right here, I can hide inside of the head, and this part right here, I can make sure that I can make it out, you know? I can make it now bigger, I can make it smaller, you know? But the main beginning of the chain is inside of here, you know? And it's not gonna be connected. And that's how we can make like pretty nice jewelry. I've used this trick also on another mini. Yeah, so if you're interested in like jewelry, that's how we can do it. And of course I had to give her like vampiric teeth. Then I started playing with the skirt a little bit. You can also see that I gave her gosh, what are they called? I think they are called thigh-high socks. So I kind of gave her like thigh-high socks. I don't know what they're called. After Googling, I believe these are called like stockings. I don't know. I don't know, but you know what they are, you know. So at first I wasn't really sure what kind of skirt I was going to do, but I wanted her feet and her legs to be, I wanted it to be seen. And then I also played with a little bit of lighting. Then somewhere along the lines, I thought it would be more appropriate to give her corset. And for now, I just gave up on the skirt because it was like way too much work and it was way too frustrating. So I just started instead with the top part, and then I added the skirt so that it is like matching the skirt. Also, we have other thingies here, so you can already see we have the hallucination in the eyes, we have the not finished, and we also have like some blood from a lady lying. Then I also wanted to give her some gloves, but I felt like these were a little bit too much. They kind of look more like opera gloves rather than like dancer gloves. So then I switched to something that felt a little bit more dancery. Yeah, and here is also where we managed to do the decal for the top, you know, and create like an illusion that this part of the decal is part of this clothing. Then after I had the corset, I started working on the skirt again, and I was crying. I'm kidding, but you know, it's like whenever you're working with skirts, it's like it's a pain, you know. I believe like when I was working on the skirt, I made some of these notes like smaller, so that like it's a little bit shorter. I managed to adjust the skirt. We still don't have like the seam here, so that was a little bit painful. But here is also where I started exploring like those castanets and so on. This is where I was playing with the lanterns. Like this was like a little bit tricky, you know, like how I was going to do it and like sell the illusion that she is dancing on a wall. And immediately I gave up on that because I didn't have like the patience, you know. I didn't know, like when I don't know what to do in HeroForge, I sometimes like skip it and I just go to the next thing. So we were working on the musical instrument. So the thing about castanets is that they are wrapped around the finger, and then they like, with your hand, you make sure that they like hit each other, you know? So I kind of imagine that she's about to like strike it. And I also finished the seams around the skirt, so we have like much better connection between the skirt itself and between the corset. And now we were trying to figure out for real the wall and how I'm going to do it. So at first I decided to remove the other lantern, you know, and then I also used this. So this is a crowbar, which is like a lantern hanger. Then I was thinking like maybe to sell the effect of this wall, I could maybe add like a spider, you know, that is like hanging off of like a lantern. But I felt like a spider like being like this, I don't think it was like really selling the effect, and the spider was a little bit too cute. You know, it's really an adorable spider, and just because this spider was like a little bit too adorable, it was like taking like the spotlight away from Lady Lay, so I wasn't the fan in the end. I also felt like maybe these lanterns were not enough, so maybe I could like sell the effect of like gravity, and that like this is a wall with some cloth hanging from the walls, which would be like drapes and stuff. So here I was exploring the idea of maybe using some flags, you know, and just putting like these flags through the crowbars. You know, it looks pretty natural, but I just felt like the flags didn't feel like too big enough, you know, and like this thing here was like also just a little bit awkward, you know. I also thought about like maybe connecting these two things and doing something like that. But yeah. And then I decided to do something a little bit simpler. I grabbed like this measuring stick right here and just put this measuring stick here, and then I hanged like a banner on it, and I put like a raven decal on the banner. I kind of like imagined that the raven is like the symbol for the Vampire Master's castle, and then I did the same on the other side. And this was finally the final version of Lady Lay. So we have like two banners, you know, hanging. We have one lantern which is dim, and we have one lantern which is glowing with fiery glow. If we actually take a look at the lights, so we have like one light here, and we have one light here. So what does it change? This light is the light for this, and this other light is for the upper area. Yeah, they're both orange glows. So we have one orange glow here, and we have one orange glow here. You know, I was just really trying to sell the idea that Lady Lay is dancing on the castle walls of her vampire master. Alright, that's it for the mini. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really had a lot of fun with this miniature, so let me know what you think. And yeah, link to the mini is in the description. Thank you so much. Take care, and bye bye.